Peter Gabriel 1980 album. Peter Gabriel is the third eponymous solo studio album by English rock musician Peter Gabriel, released on 30 May 1980 by Charisma Records. The album has been acclaimed as Gabriel's artistic breakthrough as a solo artist and for establishing him as one of rock's most ambitious and innovative musicians. Gabriel also explored more overtly political material with two of his most famous singles, the anti-war song Games Without Frontiers, which became a No. 4 hit and remains his joint highest-charting single in the UK, and the anti-apartheid protest song Biko, which remembered the murdered activist Steve Biko. The album was remastered, along with most of Gabriel's catalogue, in 2002. In the US, the album was entitled Peter Gabriel III. The album is also often referred to as Melt owing to its cover photograph by Hipgnosis. Music streaming services currently refer to it as Peter Gabriel III Melt. Details. Gabriel's ex-bandmate Phil Collins, who succeeded him as Genesis's lead vocalist, played drums on several of the album's tracks. Intruder has been cited as the first use of Collins's gated drum sound. This effect, as created by Steve Lillywhite, Collins, and Hugh Padgham, was featured on Collins's and Genesis's recordings throughout the 1980s. The distinctive sound was identified via experiments by Lillywhite, Collins, and Padgham, in response to Gabriel's request that Collins and Jerry Marotta not use cymbals during the album's sessions. Artists given complete freedom die a horrible death, Gabriel explained to Mark Blake. So, when you tell them what they can't do, they get creative and say, "Oh yes, I can," which is why I banned cymbals. Phil was cool about it. Marotta did object, and it took him a while to settle in. It's like being right-handed and having to learn to write with your left. In an interview for Genesis, The Sum of the Parts, Collins confirmed he was amenable to the request, but admitted asking Gabriel what he was supposed to do with his other hand. So significant and influential was the sound that it has been claimed by Gabriel, Padgham, Collins, and Lillywhite. It was cited by Public Image Limited as an influence on the sound of their album The Flowers of Romance, whose engineer, Nick Launay, was in turn employed by Collins to assist with his solo debut, Face Value. Paul Weller, who was recording with his band The Jam in a nearby studio, contributed guitar to him through the wire. Gabriel believed Weller's intense guitar style was ideal for the track. The album, produced by Gabriel and Lillywhite, was Gabriel's first and only release for Mercury Records in the United States, having been rejected by Atlantic Records, which had handled U.S. distribution for Gabriel's first two solo albums and his last two albums, with Genesis. Upon hearing mixes of session tapes in early 1980, Atlantic and our executive John Callender deemed the album not commercial enough for release and recommended Atlantic drop Gabriel from its roster. Atlantic Records didn't want to put it out at all, Gabriel told Mark Blake. Amit Ertegun said, "What do people in America care about this guy in South Africa? And has Peter been in a mental hospital? Because there was this very weird track called Lead a Normal Life. They thought I'd had a breakdown and recorded a piece of crap. I thought I'd really found myself on that record. And then someone just squashes it. I went through some promotion." Geffen, at the time distributed by Atlantic's sister label Warner Bros. Records, reissued the album in 1983, after Mercury's rights to it lapsed, and marketed it in the United States until 2010, when Gabriel's back catalog was reissued independently by Real World Records. Coincidentally, Mercury is now a sister label to Geffen after Mercury's parent Polygram merged with Geffen's parent Universal Music Group in 1999. I Don't Remember was performed on Gabriel's 1978 tour for his second album. An earlier studio version was to be the A-side of the first 7 single released in advance of the album by Charisma in Europe and Japan, but a Charisma executive thought Robert Fripp's guitar solos were not radio-friendly. This earlier version wound up as the B-side of the Advance Games Without Frontiers single instead in those territories. It was included. Gabriel jokingly summarized the album's themes as the history of a decaying mind. He added state of mind was definitely an area of interest at the time of writing it, but I never really set out with a concept. It was merely different songs which perhaps have fitted into one particular slant. Of no self-control, he said that's something which I've observed in myself and in other people. Artwork. The photo was taken with a Polaroid SX-70 instant camera. The sleeve's designer Storm Thorgerson said, Peter himself joined with us at Hipgnosis in disfiguring himself by manipulating Polaroids as they developed. Peter impressed us greatly with his ability to appear in an unflattering way, preferring the theatrical or artistic to the cosmetic. Critical reception. In his review for Rolling Stone, Dave Marsh described Peter Gabriel as a tremendous record that sticks in the mind like the haunted heroes of the best film noirs. In 1989, Peter Gabriel was ranked at number 46 on Rolling Stone's list of the 100 best albums of the 1980s. In 2000, Q placed the album at no 53 on its list of the 100 greatest British albums ever. 6 years later, the magazine placed it at number 29 on its list of the 40 best albums of the 1980s. In 2018, Pitchfork ranked Peter Gabriel at number 135 on its revised and expanded list of the 200 best albums of the 1980s. Track listing. All tracks are written by Peter Gabriel. Ein deutsches Album English, a German album released in July 1980, is a German-language version of Peter Gabriel. Gabriel sang German vocals on top of completely new recorded instrumental and backing vocal tracks. The German lyrics are translations from the English. 2 years later, Gabriel released Deutsches Album 1982, a significantly altered version of his fourth album Peter Gabriel 1982, known as Security in the United States and Canada. In February 1980, German-language versions of Games Without Frontiers and Here Comes the Flood were released as a single in Germany. German adaptation was done by Horst Konigstein. All songs written by Peter Gabriel. Text by Peter Gabriel translated by Horst Konigstein. Side 1 Eindringling 5:0:0. Kein Selbstkontroll 4:0. Frag mich nicht immer 6:4. Combines the instrumental start with the German version of I Don't Remember. Schnapsdesign Family and Photo 4:26. Underch Dendrot 4:28 Side 2 Spiel ohne Grenzen 4:7:7:4:7. Du bist nicht why we're 5:32. Ein Normales 11:4:21. Biko 8:55. Personnel. Peter Gabriel vocals, piano synthesizer on Start, I Don't Remember, Games Without Frontiers, and Not One of Us, drum pattern on Biko, backing vocals on Intruder, Family Snapshot, and Not One of Us whistle on Games Without Frontiers. Larry Fast synthesizer on Intruder, No Self-Control, Start, Games Without Frontiers, and Biko, processing on No Self-Control, I Don't Remember, and Not One of Us, bagpipes on Biko. David Rhodes guitar on all tracks except Start, backing vocals on Intruder, I Don't Remember, and Not One of Us, One of Us, Us, One of Us, One of Us. Robert Fripp electric guitar on No Self-Control, I Don't Remember, and Not One of Us, One of Us. Dave Gregory electric guitar on I Don't Remember and Family Snapshot. Paul Weller electric guitar on and Through the Wire. John Giblin bass guitar on No Self-Control, Family Snapshot, and Through the Wire, Games Without Frontiers, and Not One of Us, 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 One of Us. Tony Levin Chapman stick on I Don't Remember. Jerry Marotta drums on I Don't Remember. Family Snapshot, Games Without Frontiers, Not One of Us, Lead a Normal Life, and Biko, Percussion on Games Without Frontiers, and Not One of Us. One of us, 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 not one of us. Phil Collins drums on Intruder, no self-control, and then Through the Wire, drum pattern on Intruder, snare on Family Snapshot, Surdo on Biko. Morris Pert percussion on Intruder, no self-control, and Lead a Normal Life. Dick Morrissey saxophone on Start, Family Snapshot, and Lead a Normal Life. Kate Bush backing vocals on No Self-Control and Games Without Frontiers. Steve Lillywhite, Hugh Padgham whistles on Games Without Frontiers. Dave Ferguson screeches on Biko production personnel. Steve Lillywhite producer. Hugh Padgham engineer. Charts. Album. Single. 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 Certifications. Certifications and sales.